Hello, and welcome to another Concord and Victory interview. I'm Stephy, and I'm joined today by my fellow lower six students, Claudia and Jack.
In recent weeks, global financial markets have experienced significant turbulence. In early April, President Trump's announcement of sweeping tariffs led to a sharp downturn, with the S&P 500 dropping over 10% and the Dow Jones losing nearly 4,600 points. European markets mirrored this volatility, with the FTSE 100 falling almost 5% in a single day. Although a temporary 90-day pause on tariffs has led to a partial rebound, uncertainty remains high.
These events underscore the importance of financial literacy, especially for students like us who are preparing to navigate an increasingly complex economic landscape.
Today, we're honored to be joined by Dr. Luba Schoenig. Luba is a co-founder of UMushroom, a Fintech and Edtech platform dedicated to making investment knowledge accessible to all. With a distinguished career spanning roles at Lehman Brothers, Credit Suisse, and Julius Baer, she brings a wealth of experience in her structured finance and asset management. Currently, she also shares her expertise as visiting lecturer at Advantere School of Management in Madrid.
UMushroom aims to bridge the gap between complex financial concepts and everyday understanding, providing users with accessible tools to navigate the investment world confidently.
We hope also to hear about how Luba's passion for quantum physics and neuroscience is linked to her perspective on finance.
Thanks for joining us, Luba. First, could you share your thoughts on how students can develop resilience and adaptability in their finance during such global market volatility?
Thank you very much for the invitation, and it's a real pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for having me here. The question which you're asking is really very important, given particularly the particular turbulent times we are living through. The best way, which I learned from my experience in finance, and I lived through the subprime crisis in 2008, very turbulent times back then, with all the financial system is going to collapse. The best thing that you can do is start as early as possible to practice your financial instincts. Of course, you probably would not immediately start practicing with real money, because in all of us, there is this inherent fear of losing. But you can start practicing with paper money, and you can start observing your reactions. How do you handle your portfolio? How do you manage your investment strategy? Even if it's as simple as simply picking up 2-3 stocks names, which we all know, let's say Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, even if it's only very, very traditional classical names, nothing particular, nothing fancy. Pick up something, start somewhere and observe, and start with paper portfolios, with simulated portfolios. It would allow you to practice your instincts in a close to market but yet safe environment. And what I always recommend, and that is one of the things which we keep telling also to our students, is keep journaling. The same way as we journal when we're going through a difficult period of time, or when we are supposed to take an important decision. Keep a journal or a financial diary. What did you do on the day when S&P 500 dropped 4%? Did you sell in panic? Did you stick with it and said, no, I'm going to wait another day? What are your considerations? That would really help you develop a reflected and disciplined approach into investing. And that leads me to the second point. A key aspect to have success in investing is to be very, very disciplined.
Great. What inspired the creation of UMushroom, and how does it aim to transform financial education for newcomers?
That's an excellent question, and one of our favorite questions as founders. I used to work in investment banking and private banking, and so was my co-founding partner, Tony Zimmerman. We were always on the side of the wealthiest of the banks. We would cover the largest clients of the banks, the so-called ultra high net worth, with certain amount of wealth. And you know what was interesting? People would very often ask us, what's the difference between very wealthy individuals and normal people like us? Do they invest differently? Do they behave differently? How do they come to wealth? Particularly because a lot are self-made. Some inherited money, but a lot, actually, big part of the people we had the pleasure to encounter in our professional lives are self-made. And of course, a lot are entrepreneurs, but a lot are also investors. And the major difference between a wealthy person and a person who is probably less wealthy or who is just a regular person like us is that the wealthy people are invested in the markets long term. And most of us are not. And one of the key reasons why we are not invested is because we don't know how to do it. Many people confuse long-term investing and systematically building wealth with trading. We hear these stories where someone picked up, luckily, some cryptos and became over some couple of months a millionaire. Or we hear these lucky stories that someone bought Nvidia back then in the days, or Apple, as we all know from the movie Forrest Gump. But that is more like a lucky punch, a lucky strike, other than anything else. And investing and building long-term wealth is a handicraft like anything, any other handicraft, like cooking, like building a wooden table, which can be learned. And this is what motivated us to step out of banking and spread this knowledge and experience and really make it accessible to each and every one of us out there. And as you know, traditional educational systems in broad parts of Europe, and I would even say in broad parts of the world, actually does not convey this knowledge.
Thank you. How does UMushroom integrate real-world financial scenarios to enhance the learning outcomes of its users?
So that's an excellent question, because it actually really connects the real practicability of how to trade instincts. When we started building UMushroom, the major question which we posed to ourselves is, how are we going to make the life of a person who hasn't invested so far and most probably never had a touch point with finance different when we introduce the app to this person? And the first thing we realized that it needs to be really with real data. People need to start getting a feeling of what is it, this investing? What's that type of activity? And you need to provide people real data. In order to get a feeling of the pulse of the market, of how markets move, and also to get the opportunity to know yourself, how would you react according to the market mood swings. The markets are very moody, as we see. You need to be set in an environment which is at once safe, as you mentioned in the beginning, but at the same time also close to reality. And I'll give you an example. When you practice cycling, right? The first time you sit on a bike, you don't immediately jump on a speed bike. It's not like one of those competitive bikes or mountain biking, etc., etc. You start with a very simple bike, and ideally you even have supporting wheels. And this is what we started building. We started building as first a playground, testing ground, where people can really start investing, and to use the analogy with cycling, using supporting wheels. So you build paper portfolios, you get guidance, step-by-step digital guidance, what to do if you are not experienced, how to start at a point which is familiar to you. And the simple way to start is to ask you, what are your dreams? What would you like to have money for? Some would say, I want to have money for building a house one day. Others would say, I want to travel across the world. Some may dream of setting up her or his own company. And we would help you translate this dream, which is a very natural human way of thinking. Step by step, we would take you digitally by the hand and show you how to translate this dream into an investment strategy. And we would do it intuitively. This is super important. Otherwise, people would start blocking. They would start being afraid. They would start if people don't understand anything, they normally don't touch it, or they try once or twice and then they kind of really say, not for me. And now the next thing what you want to do is, after you've built a bridge between a topic which is not familiar to most of us and the person, is to teach the person to develop this into a habit. It won't help you if you look at the markets once today and then never look again, or look again in 3 months. But what we want to do is to motivate you to look regularly and see what markets are doing. That doesn't mean that you need to be stuck to your app and watch literally every second, because that would make you nervous. But observing at the beginning how markets react, making it a habit to read the news, even if it's only 5 to 10 minutes a day, to look at your portfolio. This is where we want to bring you. And one of the big advantages of digital technology is that it helps you building new habits by tracking your progress, by communicating with you through messages. And those are aspects which we actually embedded into the platform. And then the third big element which we built in order to make your journey a pleasant journey is to help you connect with like-minded. We human beings are social animals, right? We don't love doing things alone all the time. It's nice from time to time, but it's beautiful if you have a community, if you have people around you who help you. And that is why we also allow our users to build communities. So when you onboard on UMushroom, we help you get to know yourself, what type of investor you are, in a very playful way. There are 8 different types of investors, and we help you understand what are your strengths. And it's based on psychology, it's based on behavioral finance, based on your knowledge, also based on your attitude to money. And this is a very important element. We may help you realize and rework and develop your attitude towards money. Most of us have a negative attitude and we are not even aware of it. Most of us think it's scarce. Most of us think it's super difficult to earn money. And we want to help you rethink your attitude towards money, because money is simply a means. It's a neutral thing. And so based on all those considerations, we would help you on your journey connect to like-minded people, or we would help you connect to experienced people from whom you can learn. And through a lot of these activities, which we all know from the Instagrams of this world, from the TikToks of this world, etc., like following other people, rating, commenting, comparing, we allow that too. And we human beings we're competitive by nature. We love comparing. We love seeing, am I better than yesterday? Am I better than my friend Anna or my friend Paul? Or am I better than the market? All those type of questions we answer digitally. You can compare your portfolio with a benchmark, tracking the big market to translate now this into financial terms. I can compare myself with my co-founding partner, Tonya. Did I do a better performance today, or was she better? We can compare ourselves also with professionals, let's say with someone from Invesco, with a portfolio from Invesco, or Amundi, or BlackRock. All those professional strategies are on the market. And then by time you can see, I'm actually very good. Then you can start analyzing, where am I good? Or where do I want to become good in order to be happy? All those type of questions, the more you get into the topic of investing, the more questions appear, as any skill which you're learning. And we help building that. And that is how we help people really develop actually a new skill, get trained, and ultimately build a habit of investing.
That's some really great advice about networking, knowing about people and their own specific strengths. Going back to the market, I was wondering, what's UMushroom's primary target market? And how do you tailor your platform to meet their specific needs?
Thank you for that question. Basically, we work with individuals, with 3 big groups of individuals. We work with students, starting as early as the age of 15. And there is a particular program targeted to address their needs, taking into consideration that most of them probably really never had an experience with financial instruments. Majority, if not pretty much everyone, is not familiar with the jargon of investing. It's like learning a new language. So there we would focus mainly on teaching this group this new language, the ABC of finance. Then we have students and communities which are advanced in an advanced stage. They would probably study economics, or they would have accomplished some kind of an education in this field. To those folks, we would offer more sophisticated tools because they would already have passed this initial threshold of understanding the language of finance. They would be much more eager. They would encounter a different problem. They would be overwhelmed with the plethora of investment instruments. They would not know how to select. They would not know how to navigate through this jungle of investment instruments out there. Now you have to think that only in the field of the collective investment schemes, we call those in financial jargon ETFs, exchange traded funds, and funds, there are above 120,000 instruments out there in Europe. A lot. So how do you navigate? So to these type of groups who already have certain basic knowledge, we would provide sophisticated instruments to navigate, to tailor their research, to tailor their for analysis. A simple example from their everyday life. Suppose you're learning to bake bread. It's the first time you bake bread. You'd be happy not to be brought to a situation where you're going to bake a super fancy bread with a specific type of flour, let's say sourdough. That's very advanced. You would start learning what is a flour, what is a yeast, what is the water which you need to put into, salt, etc. You start learning by the ingredients and the proportions. Then, if you've passed this and you've practiced for a while to bake bread, you would want to make a more sophisticated version of it. You may want to do full corn bread or full grains bread, or you may want to do a sourdough bread, or you may want to do some kind of a sweet pie, etc. Then you move and evolve. And then this would be the analogy with people who the first time hear the ABC of finance and people who already have an experience. They would need different type of tools and different guidance. And then you have professionals who actually are on the platform to showcase their skills. And they would love to use the platform as a place where they would showcase their strategies. They may find people who want to follow them. They may want to find their communities. Like, for example, if you're a passionate expert in the field of quantum computing investing, you'd be happy to have a stage where you can showcase your knowledge, showcase your investment skills, and maybe other people would follow you so you can establish yourself as an expert or as an influencer or whatever we want to call it. So those are the three big groups which we actually address.
So drawing from your experience in major financial institutions, what advice would you offer students aspiring to enter the financial sector?
There are two aspects which we need to consider here. Entering the financial sector could be starting a job there, or entering the financial sector could be starting to invest. With respect to investing, to start with the second question, I would warmly recommend you to start as early as possible. Start first with paper money and then slowly, gradually move to real money, and start with as little as you're ready to lose. Start with an amount, let's say £5, which you're ready to lose, which the alternative, if you lose it, would not really have any impact and implications for your life. Because that is how you're going to really be focused on the handicraft and the investing, and less being absorbed by fear of losing. And don't start with gambling. It's also fun to trade, but start first really step by step and be disciplined. If you're looking for a career in finance, focus on a type of a job which would help you to learn the handicraft. If you want to go into investing, focus on a type of a job, apply for jobs which would help you to learn as quickly as possible. Constructing portfolios, trading, analyzing companies, or analyzing other asset classes, commodities, if you're into commodities, etc. Just start somewhere there. If you're into finance, for example, if you want to work one day into financing companies, start into learning the hard skills, analyzing balance sheet of a company, analyzing what we call cash flows, learning to know an industry. I would really warmly advise you to start into the core of the handcraft of the financial industry, depending on where you want to go.
So, how do your interest in quantum physics and neuroscience influence your approach to financial education and decision making?
I particularly love that one, and particularly the angle of the two. I'll start with neuroscience. Our brain functions in a certain way. Depending on how we present information and how we engage digitally, we find certain things very interesting and others not. And the gaming industry is very much focused on keeping us hooked on gaming. I have two sons in the age of 13 and 17. They're very, very much into gaming. And they spend a vast amount of time online. And I asked them once, why are you so into it? And they were like, oh, you can't imagine, like when you start, you cannot stop because it's like one thing leads to the other and you permanently get occupied. And this type of digital guidance, how you lead a user from one step to the other, is actually entirely based on neuroscience. There's a studies behind that. What do we perceive as a pleasurable? What do we perceive? What give us a dopamine rush? And what do we think is interesting? Now, exactly this type of mechanisms can be used to stimulate also learning and to stimulate something as a creative activity. Reward system, getting points, and that we do as well. We give points for, we call them gadgets, and we call them badges, virtual badges for particular accomplishments, and that rewards certain time of education activities. And we want to use technology for good. We want to make technology engaging for educational purposes. One of the things which we are completely aware of is, I don't know how it is with you. Do you keep track of how much time you spend online? But I would warmly advise, if you spend time online, spend it with education, whatever topic is interesting to you. And we very often tend to just scroll through social media, be it Instagram, TikTok. My generation would be Facebook. But we have the feeling that we're doing something because that's how those platforms are constructed. But we don't necessarily, we consume information, but we don't necessarily train skills. So if you spend time on social media, make sure you learn and improve. And even if it's only for 5 to 10 minutes a day. So from neuroscience, a lot can be learned on how to construct and present information and guide users digitally so that really you create a desired outcome. In our case, it's to make education intuitive, easy, and to tear down the blockages of finance is boring, I don't want to invest. This is one of the biggest pain points. Or finance is complicated. So much information, I don't know how to interpret it. That's another thing where digital technology can help. Or it takes a lot of time. I don't want to spend that time. Well, all of us, guess what, half this time. We can all spend 5 to 10 minutes a day to read, to educate, to absorb a short class of 10 minutes on what is a stock, what is a bond, etc. So that's where we really kind of use well-acknowledged neuroscientific evidence to make education easy and intuitive. And as of quantum physics, that goes into the direction how data are going to be processed. And I'm a big believer of the fact, as much as we see now the amazing artificial intelligence revolution, that in not too far future, we're going to see also quantum computers, and they would substantially change the way we process information. And that would be a quantum leap indeed of what we can do with information and learning and projecting possible scenarios, outcomes. That will take It will add uncertainty, but it would also take certain amount of uncertainty from decision making.
So, staying on the topic of technology, I was wondering, with the rapid evolution of fintech, what skills should students right now focus on to stay ahead in the industry?
Programming, learn to code. Make yourself familiar as much as possible with artificial intelligence. There are non-stop, constantly new tools. And also, if you want to stay into financial industry, learn also the basic of financial analysis. Learn literally, again, it comes down to learning the handicraft of finance. When it comes to technology, learn programming. It's super easy these days. I think everyone should know how to code. That is the same way as we know how to cook.
What are your predictions for the role of technology in shaping financial literacy over the next decade?
I think it would be key. I think technology changed our lives substantially. To give you a simple example, when I was studying back then in the early 2000s, late 1990s, we started investing very early, already in the first, second class of year of university. But we had to group 6 students in order to be able to cover the fees around a trade. And there are different type of fees. There are the fees to open a depot where we can warehouse our securities. In this case, we bought options on stocks. There are transaction fees. This is when we buy a stock or an option on a stock, and when we sell it each time, there is a transaction fee, etc. And you would be surprised. We had to be, one person could not bear this cost because it was very high, so we had to group. Nowadays, it's so easy. You don't have there are a lot of brokers who offer zero cost accounts or zero transaction fees. So you can start trading or investing with as little as £1 or £5 or £10. And that is already thanks to technology, right? How you process information. But technology supports also in decision taking. 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or let's say 7 years ago when I was in banking, or 5 years ago when I was leaving banking, if I would love to I had to construct a portfolio of, let's say, to a certain topic, top 10 technology stocks in the USA or in the UK. That would keep me busy for a day. In UMushroom, I would answer you the question, which are the top 10 stocks according to certain criteria in technology. It could be upside potential. It could be dividends. It could be risk. It could be whether they're attractively priced. That is literally 3-4 clicks, and I have it instantaneously. That's how technology changes our lives. It gives us back time. It saves an incredible amount of time. And it makes decisions much more easy so that we humans can focus on these type of activities where we really need this unique combination of brain and instinct. And technology actually does what I would say, the processing work. And we would have much more and more the privilege to focus on creative activities and leave the flow type of work to technology, if we're clever and know how to use it. But technology also has a drawdown. It makes us lazy. It makes us simply just sit and scroll and consume information without thinking. So I warmly recommend, as much as technology is amazing, we should also spend enough time being disconnected to technology and staying with our thoughts and feelings without being distracted from ourselves. That this capacity to focus and to stay still, and there I would warmly recommend to develop the habit of meditating. This would be even more important in the future.
Thank you so much, Luba, for your advice on finance, technology, stocks. We're so happy to have you here, and I hope you have a great day ahead.
Thank you so much, and it's a real pleasure to talk to you. You can always reach out should you have any further questions.